So we'll kick it off with the Saints. They were top 15 in quarterback, running back, and wide receiver points last season. Tight end last, 32nd, Kobe Fleener. And
well done,
Somehow I'm not
Kobe.
shocked by this.
Was not able to do much. So let's kick it off at the top of the depth chart. We got Drew Brees coming back. Lowest attempts and lowest yards that he had in almost a decade last season. Do we see him regressing back to normal Drew Brees this year, or is this the new normal?
No, this is the new normal, as I tweeted out the other day. So as Nick alluded to, fewest pass attempts since 2005 with San Diego. Fewest interceptions since 2004 with San Diego. That's a good thing. Lowest TD rate since 2007. He did have his highest completion percent of his career. Yards per completion is right in line with his career numbers, so he's not regressing as a player, but the philosophy here shifted to run and defense first. That's going to continue, and I think you get more of what you got last year, which means that he's still a top 10 quarterback, but he's not in that elite tier like he had been, and that's because he's not going to throw the ball 650 times.
I'm actually the opposite here. I think he will regress back to what he was. So on average, when he played for the Saints, his average is 4,900 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 15 picks. That average would put him as a QB2 in last year's number. Now, I'm with you guys. I don't think he's going to throw 4,900 yards or 34 touchdowns. Well, those picks are going to be lower. A lot of those bigger play runs that maybe don't happen. He throws more, throws less. Like we always talk about some players having high touchdown totals regressing back to their mean. Brees threw what? 11 touchdowns less than he normally does with the Saints.
Yeah, but he threw 100 attempts less than he normally does too.
But also thought that the defense,
but
also thought that the defense played out of their mind. They may even regress a bit. They're playing against a lot tougher competition. This NFC South has got all great offenses in there. I think Brees at least posts his positive touchdown regression.
I'm the opposite. I expect it to be more the same as what you got last year.
Brandon?
I mean, I got him, I'd probably say in the 5 to 7 range. I mean, my 4 quarterbacks are Rodgers, Russ, Cam, Brady. I think they're locked in. So I got him as high as 5, maybe low to 7, around like Cousins, Watson, Wentz, all them guys. I mean, like I said earlier with Jameis, it's a great year to wait on quarterback because there's just so many great options this year. I mean, unless you're just a religious early quarterback drafter, I'm all for waiting.
Yeah, I'm kind of splitting the difference between you two. I have him projected to go up to about 575 attempts this year, so not back to his historical norm, but up from last year.
I've got him at 560, so you're not that far off from me. I projected at 560 for right around 4,500 yards, 28 touchdowns, 10 picks.
Yeah, his norm is 624 on average.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any way he returns
I don't think there will
to
be
that.
Not going to happen.
I just think with more, like he'll just throw more. I just think
I think he'll have an extra probably 2 attempts a game over what he had last year. He was 15th in points per game last year. I've got him as my QB8 because I think he's very safe. And I think he should be probably a point or 2 better, which would dump him back up into the top 10 or 12 this year.
He's still a top 10 quarterback. I just think that he falls to that next tier. He's not in the elite tier like he had been.
All right. Let's jump to the running backs. Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram to start us off. How early is Alvin Kamara going for you guys, considering the suspension to Mark Ingram?
Right now he's 106 in ADP.
Yeah. A little early. He should be right around the back end of that first round for me. Now, I want to highlight what he did last season, though, first. 120 rushes at 6.1 yards per attempt, 100 targets, 81 receptions, 10.2 yards per reception. Here's how rare that is. And why I don't think it's going to repeat. Guys that have 110 plus carries at over 6 yards an attempt, Jamal Charles in 2010, Adrian Peterson in 2012, Barry Sanders in 1997, and CJ Spiller in 2012. That's it. Nobody's done it twice in the last 20 years. That's it. 75 plus receptions at over 10.2 yards a reception, or equal to, rather. Marshall Faulk did it 3 times. Other than that, Le'Veon Bell in 2014, something named Charlie Garner in 1999, and David Johnson in 2016. Guys that have done both of those things, him, and only him in the last 20 years. To me, that says there's going to be regression. You don't just have that rare of a season and repeat it.
And do it on his 38.3% opportunity share.
Right.
He's massive efficiency all across the board.
So, but on the flip side, he's going to have 4 games without Ingram here. He's going to probably see his touches go up to closer to 250, 260.
He is. And he's a top 10 running back for me. I'm just saying that you can't expect the same efficiency, but like you said, he's going to have his touches go up. So, and I've got him right at 255 actually between receptions and rushes. So I've got him at 255 touches. So I think he's still going to be efficient. He's running behind a good offensive line with a good defense with a team that's going to try to run. I think that when Mark Ingram comes back after the suspension, that he doesn't get the same share he was getting. I don't think he's relegated to nothing, but I think Kamara still takes more of a share.
So back to the original question, where are you taking him? Like, which pick?
Probably 109, 110.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Brandon?
He's my RB7.
Yeah, he's also.
Yeah, I agree with that. The 109. I mean, I probably got him around 6. Dude, Scott Barrett from PFF put it perfectly to kind of sum up Kamara. He said, 1 carry usually equals 0.585 expected fantasy points. 1 target equals 1.572 expected fantasy points. So, I mean, he's going to get a heavy dosage of both touches and targets, especially with Ingram. And I agree with what you guys just said. You know, with Ingram being out them games, I think Kamara's going to do very well and probably just take the lion's share of all the touches at that point. And like you said, Ingram's not going to get relegated to nothing, but I think it's definitely going to be Kamara's backfield. So, I mean, I can see him touching 75 receptions easy, I think. Probably 700 yards rushing. I mean, 700 receiving, 800 rushing. Definitely over 10 touchdowns.
So I've got him at 964 rushing, 73 receptions for 712 yards receiving, and 15 total touchdowns.
Yep.
Jesus
Right,
Christ.
So
That's a big.
That's
like an RB2-3 year.
no, it's not.
like top 2 or 3.
Yeah, that's like top 2-3. That's what I meant.
Especially PPR.
Yeah.
No, that's going to put him in half PPR, probably at 6 for me.
Okay. Well, Mark Ingram comes in. He was 7th in points per game last year at 17.8. Now he's being drafted in the 5th round due to his 4-game suspension. Is the 501 ADP a good value for Ingram with the suspension, or do you think that's still too high?
It's too high. 4-game suspension. He had a career high in carries last year with 230. Also career high in targets. He was fine as far as his efficiency goes. 15th in yards created, 18th in evaded tackles, 43rd in juke rate. But I just think that Kamara shows enough to where it's going to be hard when Ingram comes back to take carries from him. So I think that he loses some of that share that he had last year. I don't think he's worth nothing, but 5th round to me is still probably about a round early.
And then you got, Terrence Swift and Jonathan Williams. What if one of them blew up the first 4 weeks? What's to say Sean Payton, who's historically not really like Mark Ingram that much, for whatever reason, Ingram just can't seem to get out of his doghouse.
I forgot about that, but that's very true. Mark Ingram had sex with Sean Payton's wife.
Apparently. Allegedly.
Yes.
So, I mean,
That wasn't a rumor we started or anything.
It's not just Mark Ingram's talent. It's if one of these backups actually looks good, they may actually take some of his workload when he comes back.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't see him getting nothing, but I still think that it's too high.
So how many touches do you project him for?
Five's too early for me.
For Ingram, hold on.
So I had him at 180 given the 4-game suspension. But considering he's missing 5 of the first 6 games with the bye week as well, I would not take him at 501. He needs to at least.
When is
your
bye week? Week 5?
Week 6.
Yeah.
Week 6.
So he's back for 1 week, and then he's on bye.
What did you have him projected at touch-wise?
180.
I got him more than that. I got him at 235, but I got this team rushing more.
It depends how much they.
So, no, and that's exactly what I have. I've got him projected to rush, 470 times and not throw as much because I expect that defense to still be good, and that's right in line with what they did last year.
Makes sense.
All right. Is there a name you guys are going to make a dart throw on for the first 4 weeks?
I wanted to say Jonathan Williams, but then they brought in Terrence West. So I mean, Jonathan Williams didn't look great in OTAs, at least not enough for them to feel comfortable. And they brought in Terrence West. I mean,
let's put it this way.
Who the fuck knows?
Let's put it this way. I'm going to watch preseason, and I'm going to see which one of those 2 flashes in preseason, and then I'm going to ride with them.
Yes, that's the safe answer, but not the fun answer.
I actually do like Williams a little better than T. West, though. I mean, I was a big Williams fan when he was in Buffalo. So
yeah, we were all over
I think
Williams
he's
last year,
definitely
and he got burned when he got cut.
No, I'm with Williams on this one too. I'm leaning in that direction.
Yeah, I'd rather.
I've changed to West, but it's a lean because they brought him in for a reason.
Yeah.
All right, on to the receiving game. Michael Thomas was 7th in points per game last year. I currently have him as my wide receiver 4, going 203 in ADP. Is that a good value for Michael Thomas?
It is a good value for him. He's actually more efficient with other wide receiver options on the field. You look back at 2016 versus 2017, 4/10 more of a yard per reception, 4 more touchdowns, 4/10 more receptions per game, plus 6.2% on his catch rate because he wasn't getting all of the coverage. He had 149 targets last year. Other wide receivers had 137, so he literally out-targeted anything else the Saints had at wide receiver combined. I think with Smith and Meredith, that falls back a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit, just because it's going to be more spread out. But that's not enough to bump me off of Michael Thomas in the early second round, because I still think he's in the second tier of wide receivers.
Well, no, he should see some massive positive touchdown regression. He had 5 on 149 targets in 17 versus 9 on 92.
And this just fits to what I think Brees will do next year. He dropped 3 or 4 touchdowns in one game in the end zone.
Yeah.
So I mean, like you catch 2-3 of those, and it changes everything.
He was 5th in yards after catch, 13th in red zone receptions, 7th in yards per pass route, 12th in contested catch rate. He's great, and he's going to get better with Cam Meredith and Traquan Smith and Ted Ginn taking coverage off of him.
And Ben Watson should be more effective than
Kobe
Fleener was.
Absolutely. So even though I expect him to see less targets, I expect the efficiency makes up for it and keeps it level.
Yeah, I expect his catch rate and touchdown rate to go up.
Brandon?
Yeah. I got him around 4-5. It's really between him and Keenan, switching them back and forth. I got them around 4-5. But I mean, he's safe. He's most likely going to play all 16 games, as opposed to a guy like Keenan Allen, who always has that injury risk. You know what I mean? Yeah, but I mean, lock for 100 receptions, I think, and at least over 1,200 yards, over 9 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think he'll be closer to the 8-9 range this year for touchdowns as opposed to 5 like he was last year.
I think I had him at 9 exactly. I've got him, Keenan Allen, and Mike Evans all in the same tier, within 5-6 points of each other.
Yep.
All right. Cam Meredith, Ted Ginn, and Traquan Smith.
Here we go.
Who's your favorite of these 3 to throw a dart on?
Cameron Meredith.
Same here.
Yep, Cam Meredith 1, Smith 2, Ginn 3 for me.
Yep, that's exactly how it is. Ted Ginn, 4.6 targets a game as a wide receiver 2 last year. That's going to fall. There's just more mouths to feed. He had his highest catch rate of his career by 20 points last season. Ted Ginn did.
It was insane.
3rd in yards per target as a field stretcher, 8th in catchable targets. Only 2 versus 7 the previous year. I don't know what that note means. Anyway, but Willie Snead saw 104 targets in 2016 playing a similar slot role. I don't think Cam Meredith sees that, but he did have a 68% catch rate, catching passes from guys named Jay Cutler, Matt Barkley, and Brian Hoyer. So I think even seeing about 85 targets or so, that Cam Meredith is a pretty decent value in the later rounds of the draft.
Yeah, 85 targets should get him into wide receiver 4 conversation as kind of a borderline flex play most weeks.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why I got him receiver 4.
Meredith can stay healthy. I think he'll fit that slot role very well.
Yeah. And he never had injury issues before he tore an ACL. So it's not like he had a bunch of soft tissue strains and stuff like that going on. So.
His agility and burst score are insane. He's a fantastic route runner. He's going to fit in really well in the slot that they decided to use him.
Yeah. If we start seeing him in training camp and we see him fully comfortable running routes and stuff, he'll start moving up my board for sure. I'm just being a little cautious at the moment.
He did tear it in preseason, so he's had plenty of time to recover.
Timeline wise, he should be fine. It was reported to be a worse than normal ACL tear, though.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like all ACL tears are bad. I don't know what worse than normal ACL tear means.
Well, I think he
probably tore more ligaments with it.
Yeah, he tore MCL too. I know.
Okay.
He had a Teddy injury?
No, it wasn't a
not quite that bad.
Not quite that bad?
No, it wasn't a full dislocation.
He didn't Zach Miller himself.
And then lastly, we've got Mafia Man himself, Ben Watson. So before we get into stats for him, how is he going to take care of the other Saints tight ends this year?
We can't talk about that in the air, Nick.
Josh Hill, I mean, what other tight ends does he have to take care of? It's pretty clear that he's the guy. It's not like a Baltimore situation where he's going to break kneecaps to get on the field.
All right. So what do you guys project for Ben Watson this year?
He had 62 targets last year. He had 110 his last day in New Orleans. He doesn't touch that. Where do I have him? Somebody else. Oh, never mind. He's right in front of my face. I've got him at 74 targets, 48 receptions, 519 and 5. So he should come in the back end of that TE1 conversation.
Okay, so he's kind of that
Yeah.
11 to 15 range.
Yeah. I mean, the Saints last
I got
year.
him a little,
What's
I
that?
got him a little lower than that. I got him like around 20. I got him sub 500, sub 50 catches, sub 5 touchdowns. All that. I'm not too intrigued by him.
He went. My intrigue with him is the fact that the Saints have always wanted to use the tight end. They used it with Graham. They wanted to use it with Fleener his first year and then couldn't. Then last year they went away from it because I don't think Drew Brees trusted Kobe Fleener.
And he was hurt.
And Ben Watson's the guy that has rapport with Drew Brees. Like I said, he had that 110 target breakout season with them. He's going back into an offense that he's familiar with. He saw 62 targets last year in Baltimore when the tight end position wasn't necessarily clear. So I think that being back in New Orleans where it's familiar, I mean, I think that helps him. They had 54 tight end targets last year, and I think they go back towards a little bit more of that, even though Drew Brees isn't throwing it 60,000 times.
He'll be a good streamer.
Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
currently
He's
currently
my 15.
free.
He's my 15. And he'll go free. I think maybe someone might take a stab in the dark in him in some leagues, but he's relatively going to be cheap.
All right.
Oh, yeah, definitely cheap.
He'll be cheap for sure. I think he's a great late round pickup.
Yep.
All right. Well, that